Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and that is Tim, who's trying his best to throw me off. This is going to be a horror movie discussion because
Screams After Midnight.
that's what we do here. We talk about horror movies. We're starting off on a good high note. This one, aren't we? So, what is this one going to be about, though? This is going to be about a movie called Jackals, which is a new film that just came out on the VOD and the DVD and other types of that exist.
This is basically any way you want to watch this, you can get it. It's on VOD. It's in some theaters.
Is it? Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh.
Yeah, I got it on VOD, but it was playing at the Man's Chinese Theater down the street from me. But I chose to be lazy. Sorry, Jackals.
Yeah, so sorry. Indeed.
Hurting your box office sales.
Jackals is directed by Kevin Greutert. If I'm pronouncing that right. And I think it's one of these ones where it was actually at a festival last year, so technically it's a 2016 movie, but it is not, it's 2017. You know, when we get to the end of the year awards, best and worst, this is the sort of thing that'll still be applicable. Applicable? That's not the right word.
As you always say, festivals don't count.
Festivals don't count. Yes, exactly. Don't count for anything. So what is Jackals? Well, obviously we'll start spoiler free, as we usually do, and I'll give you a warning before we get into it. And so, what is Jackals about? Jackals is set in the 80s and is a movie about a family who hire, not a private detective, but like someone who helps
like
people.
Like a deprogrammer. Like if someone is brainwashed or in a cult or something, there are these people that you can hire to kind of help them get through that.
So he gets this family's son back. I mean, I say son, you know, he's in his 20s, like, you know, so. But like this guy Justin, he's in a cult. So this guy kidnaps him, basically, brings him back to the family's house in the woods, and they attempt to try and sort of get through to him, break through, and sort of break the cult-like spell this cult's got on him. But of course, the cult, who all wear jackal masks, all show up, and it becomes kind of a sort of standoff with them outside trying to get in and maybe killing some people, and that's kind of the movie from there. They'll try to get them back.
Basically a home invasion movie.
To a point. I'd say it kind of isn't, because they're not really trying to get in for the most of it. They're just kind of standing outside being threatening.
Alright. And if you want to be super technical about it, sure.
I want to be accurate about it.
Okay, because there's no people that are trying to get into the house at any point.
I didn't say that. I said for the most part. For the most part.
Okay.
They could get in at any time they wanted to. They could all storm all the windows quite easily.
Yeah.
For an invasion, it's very lax. They're not invading as good as they could be. It's a poor show. And Tim's cat's licking his ass at the moment as well, which I can just see over his shoulder, which is amusing me.
It's giving you a show.
And
I took her to the vet the other day, and the vet could not stop complimenting her. She said, "Oh my gosh, so beautiful. Her teeth look great."
Tim, I'm getting the slightest impression you don't actually want to talk about Jackals. But I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Tim,
okay.
Did you enjoy Jackals?
I thought it was okay. Even if you say it's not a home invasion movie, I think it's still the closest thing you can kind of compare it to. And
oh, sure, yeah, that's fair.
And I don't think that it definitely wasn't better than, some of the, bigger, more notable home invasion movies, the last couple of years. I did think the plot was interesting. I liked it. And, there are good parts, but I wasn't, like, overly thrilled about it.
This is way more positive than I was expecting. This movie's terrible, Tim. What the hell? Like, don't get me wrong.
Really?
I'm not saying there was no... Like, I actually kind of like the opening scene, which is this sort of POV scene, very inspired by Halloween, and it gave me some hope for the rest of the movie. And I actually kind of agree with something you just said. If I get this cat out of the way, I agree that I like some of the ideas of the plot. I think the core idea of the plot is actually pretty good. Like this idea that they're trying to like break their family member out of the cult, and the cult shows up. That's fine, and you've got this home invasion standoff kind of thing going. The problem, though, is that almost all of the acting in this movie is absolute garbage. They are terrible.
Yeah.
And I let it go. I let it go for a little bit. Like a little bit, I let it go because I'm like, oh, you know what? The opening was very kind of sleazy. Like, it's actually set in the 80s, although to be honest, other than the fact that they don't have like cell phones, there's no reason why it has to be set in the 80s.
Yeah.
Nothing comes up. Nothing remotely comes up other than the fact that they can't just phone someone.
I don't even think I noticed that it was supposed to be in the 80s.
Oh, it says at the start. That's how you know.
Right.
It says 1983 at the start of the movie.
Okay. I must have missed that or didn't remember it. Because, yeah, there's nothing that's like that dated about it or anything.
They've got, and at one point it tries to turn on the TV, and it's an old TV with an antenna, and they can't get a signal. But that's about it. Like there's almost nothing that, I mean, even the clothes they're wearing don't really feel like they're out the 80s. They're just kind of normal clothes.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. But the acting is atrocious, and I was fine. Like, honestly, the best one, which is the guy they've hired to like get him and try and help him, he's a bit, don't get me wrong, he's a bit over the top, but he's the most interesting from like a character point of view, because I thought they were setting up a lot of stuff with him where he how is he good at this? Why does he know what he's doing here? And like, you know, what's his backstory? So he's a bit more interesting, and I thought the actor
fits his like character to. He's a little bit of an over the top macho man, but he is like a former Navy SEAL, I think, or Marine or something.
He doesn't feel realistic, but he feels like a movie character. He feels like someone I'd seen a movie in the 80s. So I kind of liked him to a point. The rest of them though are just really bad. Like, anytime the movie tried to get emotional, and it did a lot. Like, a lot of it, like after the opening, like, I was getting really bored for long stretches of it, because it was assuming that I'd be into this family drama of them wanting their brother or their son, like, you know, depending on who the connection was, like them wanting Justin back, and I never really felt like every time they tried to like have an emotional conversation about wanting him back, or hinting that the mother had troubles or the dad had troubles, or, you know, the family weren't perfect before, like every time I tried to hint at that stuff, I'm like, you know what, if the acting and the script weren't terrible, I might give a shit about any of this. But I don't, because every single time they start saying things like, oh, but I was cheating on your mother, I'm like, I don't care. Like, the acting was terrible, Tim. Like, and as the movie went on, it got worse and worse, because it just kept compelling. But I kept thinking, oh, but once the villains show up, it'll get interesting, and it'll be like the fun horror movie again. And honestly, the actual horror stuff was kind of weak after that. The opening scene was pretty decent, but the rest of it, meh.
I mean, I feel like I'm on like if there's like a kind of a line that's like just okay, and then
guess what number he's going to rate it at the end of the show.
Like I don't know. I feel like we're kind of in the same ballpark, but like on different ends. Like, you're on the, like, if there's like a kind of an okay line, but then you're more on this side that's, you know, bordering like bad, and I'm on the side that's bordering like not that bad.
There was potential. Like, I actually thought I was really going to like it after the opening scene. I thought, yeah, okay, the acting in that opening scene wasn't great, but the way it was shot, it had style, because it was this, you know, inspired by Halloween POV shot, and it was like, and it felt kind of grimy, and I thought, oh, maybe this will feel like an actual low-budget 80s, like, horror movie that's, like, not anything meaningful, but is grimy enough and has, like, fun with its concepts enough that I'm going to get into it. But I honestly didn't feel like it did anything with its concepts in the second half. Like, all the actual Jackals stuff, it just kind of, it landed like a, you know, with a thud. Like, they're just kind of standing out there looking creepy. They didn't really feel like they were doing anything.
Yeah, I feel like this is a problem I have with, again, just other like home invasion movies. I thought there were a few decent parts, but yeah, it didn't really go, I think, places that you wanted it to. I agree. The
Mhm.
family stuff was not needed. Or yeah, maybe if it was better actors or something, I don't know. Honestly, the acting didn't really bother me that much, but I think maybe is because I was expecting a like a cheesier movie or something.
Well, the cheese is
The,
fine, but I think the problem is they wanted to rely on like caring about like this
yeah,
family getting their their son back, and it was just kind of like it's so on the nose written. Like you're talking about the mother having drinking problems, which by the way never really comes up after it's mentioned. And you're talking about all these different things, but between the acting, between the screenplay, which is far too simplistic to actually like get any emotion out of it, it like it needed to either actually have more constant like horror stuff happening and fun, be inventive in that way. And after the opening scene, that's what I thought I was going to get. I thought I was going to get paper thin characters that I didn't really care about, but the horror stuff was going to be fun based on that opening scene. And then it just kind of wasn't. Like it just like I think it reminds me. It's not as good. Like the first Purge movie is definitely better, just because it's
okay.
not as badly acted, but.
Mhm.
It kind of reminded me of that in a lot of ways, where the Purge as well was one where I didn't get what I thought I wanted from it, where
Mhm.
it just kind of felt like I mean, obviously in that movie's case, it was because like they had these metal shutters over all the windows and doors that kept them out, but it just kind of felt like, oh, they're outside, and it's more about like waiting them out or trying to like figure out things inside, and this kind of had the same thing where I just feel like it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. Whereas you compare it to something like The Strangers or even Your Next, which are the home invasion movies that I really like. I love those
Yeah.
movies for various reasons. Um, those felt like they were constantly doing something and they were constantly moving. They were written in a way that was progressing the story forward. Whereas here, once the villains actually show up and they're outside and we're inside the house and like they're supposed to be scared, like I felt like, okay, right, we're at this point, and then it just sort of becomes this bickering. Like it just feels like they're not really like there's only one sort of moment where they try and come up with a plan. They're like, okay, this is what we'll do. We'll try and do this to get out of this situation, and it only happens once.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel they're being proactive. It doesn't feel they're trying to do things. Um, I don't know. Like,
It's yeah, it's kind of a shame because I think there, was a little bit of potential there. Because the idea of a like I feel like a lot of times with other movies, people just rely on okay, these people have creepy masks, so it's gonna be creepy. But then like in the Purge and stuff, it's kind of like why are they wearing masks? Like it doesn't, there's no need for it. But I do like that this. Oh, like there is actually a reason. It's because of this cult thing, and there's a reason why they're here, and they're trying to get this person back. And I like that aspect of it. But it just didn't really um do much with it. I would say there were at least a few scenes I enjoyed. I can think of like three, off the top of my head at least.
yeah, we're still in spoiler-free territory, so hold
Yeah,
them back a little bit just now.
but
But
but I mean, there's enough to, I guess, keep me interested like throughout. Like I didn't get like bored and check out or anything during it. Like I don't know, at least even if it wasn't great, like at least I did, you know, kind of like wanted to see what happens next. And then which it's not super long. It's like
nah,
90 minutes or so.
the movie completely lost me after a certain point because,
Mhm.
like I say, I liked the opening scene. Like as much as
Mhm.
I thought the acting was a bit off on it, like I felt like no, this has got a tone. It's going for something. And if it's this fun, like the opening scene, I mean, fun's a weird word given what happens in it, but like
Yeah.
it was shot in an interesting way where I felt like, okay, right, if this is what it's doing, then I could be into this. And the weird thing is that the opening scene actually doesn't really have that much to do with the rest of the movie, beyond the fact
No.
that it's just setting up that this is someone else like Justin,
Mhm.
who's on this cult now. But beyond that, it's not really doing anything. Because that was the other thing, is I thought like the whole point of the movie was that at the end the cult wanted Justin to like murder his family, and it doesn't actually go down that path, which I just thought was weird because it doesn't do something more interesting instead. It just doesn't do it. It just
Yeah.
nothing like exciting or like surprising happens. It just kind of ends.
Mhm.
But like I really thought I was going to be into the movie and like a sort of fun, cheesy, not great way, but like I thought I was going to
Yeah.
enjoy it. And then the brother who's like super overacting. He's got the blonde slick back hair. He's like a bit douchebag.
Yeah, I would say he would. He was probably the worst.
Oh no, the girlfriend was the worst. The baby. She was terrible. Every word that came out of her mouth. She sounded like she was like. They went to like a drama school and picked out like just someone who maybe didn't make the cut for the actual play the drama school were going to put on, and they took her because she was available. That's what she felt like to me.
I don't know. I thought the brother was way more like.
They were both bad. Don't get me wrong. Like
yeah,
the parents were bad as well.
Maybe the brother was like more noticeable because he was a lot more over the top or something. But
maybe that's why you're thinking that, because he was more over the top. I think she was really bad though, because like she had like, these big scenes like on her shoulders. Like she had to like go to Justin because they've got him tied up for like most of the movie, and she goes to him and she's like, Justin, I still love you, and I regret what I said, and think of our baby, and like every line that came out of her mouth was making me roll my it was making me cringe. I felt embarrassed.
Well,
she was awful.
I do kind of like that it made you cringe.
I mean, she should really just quit acting, do something else with your time, because it's not your thing.
Ouch.
Now, admittedly, right? Maybe the director just doesn't know how to direct actors. It's maybe not all on her, right? Obviously, that's something I should say. It may not be all on the actor's fault, but the fact that all of them are pretty bad, that could be the director obviously at fault as well. But it could also be that they got bad actors because the director doesn't know how to cast a movie properly, or we're really cheap. But even then, you can get good cheap actors. Like you can find up and comers who haven't made it big yet, and you can get them instead.
Yeah, like us, we work pretty cheap.
Yeah, but I'm a shit actor, so that's fair. You can't swim, you keep your ass out of the pool.
Wait, you can't swim your ass out of the pool? What?
If you can't swim, you keep your ass out of the pool.
Okay. Makes sense.
It does. I'm a smart man, Tim.
That makes less sense. But I did. It's funny though, talking about the woman, even though I knew it wasn't her, I still had to actively tell myself in my brain every time she was on screen that she was not Katie Holmes.
What, you mean the girlfriend?
Yeah.
Well, for a start, Katie Holmes is like in her 40s now. Or close to it, maybe. I don't know if she's not quite hit 40 yet, but she's she was playing characters this age when she was in the 90s. So yeah.
I don't know. She reminded me a lot of her, and even though I knew it wasn't her, I still had to actively be like, Nate, that is not Katie Holmes.
Fair enough. I never got that myself, Tim. I never thought of Katie Holmes, but I don't know. I mean, I guess Justin wasn't too bad. Like himself, he was just kind of doing stereotypical creepy stuff, but he wasn't making me cringe like the rest of the family were. So
I feel like with him, at least you could have the excuse of being like, well, he's brainwashed in an occult, so maybe he is gonna sound a little weird. Yeah, if he sounds a little over the top or stuff at times, that could explain it.
He's the crazy one, yeah. Like he's maybe a bit maniacal and stuff. I don't know. I really don't.
Oh. Do you want to jump into spoilers?
Yeah, I guess we're in the spoiler territory now. So full spoilers from this point on. Oh my god, she was in Scream Queens. Who was she in Scream Queens?
Really?
I'm looking at our page.
First season?
She was in 3 episodes. Yeah, it was the first 3. She must have been one of the first. They have all the pledges and they all start getting killed off. She must have been one of the early ones that get killed off in episode 3 because she was only in 3 episodes.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember someone being that terrible in that. But, I mean, again, better directing, of course. And plus, that show's pretty over the top, so over the top acting in that works pretty well.
Can work for that, yeah. So, I don't know, maybe, she shouldn't quit, like you said.
Okay, maybe that was harsh, alright? I'll admit, maybe that was a bit harsh. But come on, surely you've seen some acting where you've thought, okay, they should just stop right now.
Yeah, probably.
You probably have. I've certainly thought that about directors. Come on now, like there's been directors where I've thought, no, quit, please, stop. I mean, and I shouldn't, like, obviously I'm saying that because I've had the pain of sitting through a movie I've hated, but I mean, sure, like, never give up your dreams, absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, as a viewer, as a consumer of the stuff that we're talking about, we also have a right to, like, have strong opinions on it, and
Right.
you know, to a reasonable degree. And I think one of the things that comes from this, like, you know, I can say, okay, maybe I shouldn't say it to a director, never, like, you know, don't give up your dream. If you want to keep fighting for your dream, if you can somehow manage to keep trying it, then yeah, sure, keep trying it. But it gets to a point, and they're like, okay, I think Zack Snyder's terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I shouldn't tell him to quit movies, but I don't want him to touch anything I care about ever. For example, Batman and Superman, I never want him to touch them again. Please, like, stay away from them. So, like, am I not supposed to have that opinion? Of course I am.
No, you can. I'm just busting your chops. It is a very, like, weird day and age where, like, back in the day, you know, you'd watch something with your friends and, you know, you might not like it, so you might make fun of it or whatever, you know, just as friends and stuff. But now it's kind of like, theoretically, you can not like something and then post about it online, and then you can have, like, the director, like, see it and then, like, make fun of you. Like, that's just like a weird thing that can happen.
It is, and that's just for, like, most people on something like Twitter or Facebook. But then, especially Twitter's sort of a place where that happens a lot. And then, obviously, we're putting this out on YouTube, which is more of a sort of, I mean, not quite formal, but it's, you know, it's a show. We put this out here. We call it a review. It's just not impossible that someone involved in the movie will click on it and find out. And maybe that's why I shouldn't say things like please quit acting. But hey, like, the thing is, though, if you get into movie making, or if you get into, like, you know, if you write songs, if you make video games, if you do anything, if you're a creative person, if you get into a creative industry, you have to accept that there's going to be reviews. Like, it's not like anyone who get into this movie didn't know that someone would be reviewing it afterwards. Like, that was something they knew was going to happen, and you have to accept that there's a possibility that it's going to be negative.
Like, as someone who, you know, makes creative content, I'm patiently waiting on the day I get a bad review, but you know, hasn't happened yet, but we'll see.
Creative's
I'm sure eventually.
Creative's a bit of a stretch there, Tim.
Hey, I will have you know that. Not talking about this show, you dunce, but
oh, I know. I was trying to make a friendly dig at your comic books there. All right. I am joking. Check out Tim's comics.
Let's talk about the Jackals.
Let's talk about the Jackals. Yeah. Or is it the Jackals? No, it's just Jackals.
Just Jackals.
God damn it, Tim! You're getting the title wrong.
I think I timed it when I was watching it, and I'm pretty sure that the Jackals don't actually show up until like 35 minutes in.
It takes a little bit of a while, which I think would be fine if I didn't like hate the characters and hated the acting.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a perfect amount of time, because the end of Act 1, give or take, you know, 90-minute movie, Act 1 should end maybe slightly earlier, but you know, you're taking time to get to know the characters so that, you know, when things go down, we care about them. But I think that part of the problem is it never actually does anything to make us care about them. They're just kind of concerned about Justin, which maybe that's should be enough. But I don't think I ever really latched on to any of them. And then when it does show up, first of all, the first one we see when things go down, you know, in what's his name, Jimmy. He's the one they've hired to, like, find Justin. He goes out with his gun because he's like the experienced one, and he's, you know, an ex-Marine and whatever else. And it's actually,
so I actually like this scene.
This is okay. Although the Jackal being a very sexy, attractive lady was kind of distracting.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's like the first killer we get in the movie that we see that's not entirely true, it's the opening scene, but, you know, like, we've been waiting all this time, and then the first one we see, and there's like midriff, and I'm like, oh, hello, midriff. Like, I've been distracted. Who is the sexy Jackal lady?
I did like that she didn't have, like, a creepy kind of way that she moved. Like, it was almost in like a kind of seemed like a dancey ballerina-y kind of way.
Yeah, because she does that later as well when she shows up again and she, like, slits someone's throat. It's very, she's sort of moving majestically.
Yeah. And so one of the things I like though is that I thought, okay, this could be cool. They have this like badass army guy that, these people are gonna try to, bust in, and he's gonna, be like a cool '80s action
and
star.
and like I said earlier, he was perhaps the most interesting character because he kept saying about how I know how you feel, and I was like, oh, what's his backstory? Was he in a cult and he fought his way out of it? Like he got out of a cult, or maybe he had a family member who was in a cult. Like, I was actually kind of interested in his backstory, and then he's the first one to die.
But I kind of appreciated that though, because it did, subvert my expectations. Like, I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, yeah. I think part of the problem is that you immediately go, well, if he's not going to survive more than 2 seconds, the rest of this family are screwed.
Yeah, that is true.
So
I don't really want to see the dad like, just throwing a lamp at someone's head or something.
yeah, none of the other characters were very like. It was hard to root for any of them. None of them gave you any qualities. Like, they were all. The girlfriend was very whiny. The mother was just this quiet, like constantly drinking character. The dad was very passive and kind of timid, and then the brother was an asshole, basically. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of his logical comments make sense, where he's like, "Let's just give him the Justin. They just want him," and I'm like,
seems...
"Yeah." I mean, admittedly, I'm sure they're just going to kill everyone as soon as they do that anyway. Like,
yeah,
they have no reason to leave you alone. So,
and they don't exactly say why, but they do allude that they want the baby for some reason.
Justin says that at one point. Oh yeah, we want babies. Like, they're the future after all, and he's very creepy. And I don't know if he was actually being serious, if he was just trying to like creep her out. But yeah, they probably do want the baby.
Well, because I thought that was going to be like a bigger plot point. Like, hey, we can't just give him over to them because they're gonna get him, but they're still gonna want the baby, and that's like the most innocent one that we need to protect. But then
Tim,
in the end, it kind of seems like they just let her go off.
There's a lot of things in this that felt there were going to be bigger plot points, and then do nothing with them. Like, it kept the backstory of Jimmy, or like. The idea of protecting themselves. There's a little scene where they get some weapons together, and they tape like a knife to a stick, so he's got a spear, and they've got like a pickaxe with an extra blade on it as well. And like, I'm like, oh right, okay, they're setting things up. But then like, there was never any like, is there someone in the house? Like, we have to search the house. There was never anything like that. Like,
there was like, well, I mean, there was a scene where they go upstairs and they notice the windows open, and then the guy
jumps out immediately.
Out.
Yeah, immediately. Like, there was never any
extended like suspense.
Like, suspense of any kind, really, would have been nice. Like, like, there was a lot of like, oh, let's just jump out, or we'll have a hand come through the window right at this moment and like shock you. But there was never any like actual, oh, could there be something happening? What's going on? And like I say, I think honestly the biggest thing though is the fact that the dialogue and the acting were so bad that I found it hard to really get into anything that was going on anyway. Like, because like, if I care about the characters at least a little bit, then I'd care that they're in danger, and I didn't really care about them in here at all. Like, it felt like forced the entire time. I never felt like it was natural. So when characters are making sacrifices, or like, I almost thought the movie got interesting when, because they have the one plan they ever come up with is that the asshole brother is going to run for help. Like, everyone else is going to distract him, so they're all at the front of the house, and he's going to run for the neighbour who's like a mile away to try and get help. And I thought, okay, all right, plan. And when he does run away, he finds some cars, which turn out to be the cars that belong to the Jackals, and he hides underneath the car. And
I would say this was another scene that I liked.
I liked it until it became nothing.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was building up to more than what it was, because he hides under the car, and it's like 3 cars, so he's hiding under the one in the middle. And like, the left car, like, someone gets inside it and then like turns it around and it faces the car he's hiding under, and the lights come on. And then the car on the right does the same thing, and they're both facing the car that he's under. And I thought, are they going to like ram into this car while he's underneath it? And is this going to be really terrifying? And instead, like, he just tries to roll out, like they're not going to see him, and someone just immediately grabs him. Like, again, it felt like there was, okay, maybe a little bit of interest and build. Kind of like a lot of the plot points where I thought, oh, they're setting something up that could be interesting, and then it just, nah, it's over. Yeah,
I think that's a pretty fair assessment of the movie overall. It's like it can have good build up, but never really, like fulfills its promise.
I would maybe even sort of strip that back a little bit more and say it doesn't even have build up. It has some seeds of things that could be good,
Yeah.
but then there's no actual build up, so there's no suspense, and then there's no payoff really. Because I think, I mean, the ending's really weak. I thought.
Yeah, that that was really surprising. It like is very, very like abrupt, and not even like in a way I felt like where like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Like you're trying to make us feel like safe, and then show us, oh wait, but are they? But I don't know. It felt weird having like, all right, we're gonna have a car, and then there's also someone behind her, and it's like, I don't know, maybe could have just gone with one or the other. I felt like.
Yeah, honestly, like I don't even feel like it happens so quick that if they were going for that, oh, she is away, like because basically what happens at the end is. So they've kidnapped the brother and they've got him out at the front of the house and they've got him chained up and they're pouring gasoline on his hand and setting his hand on fire, which basically gets the mother to like for some stupid reason go out. And I think they were playing with the whole idea of like being responsible for your kids and like this like guilt of the parents and like, oh, did he end up this way because of us? So I have to go out and protect my only son who's not an evil cult person. And she goes out and then the husband goes out after her and we have like them kind like the husband's kind of fighting off like some of them with his pickaxe for a little bit, and it's like whatever, and eventually like one of them grabs him, and then that's when the sexy jackal shows up. I don't even know what else to call her because it's like she's the only female jackal, and she shows up and she like slits like the mother's throat, and then like he gets killed, and it just kind of like, all right, so we've killed most of the characters. The only people who are left are the girlfriend and the baby, Justin's baby, and she like runs out the back with the same plan again to just run while the others are distracting them, and so Justin talks her into like letting him out of the restraints. She's like, right, let me out. I can go out and end this, and you can run off. And like it's sort of like it's like I think it wants you to think, oh, maybe he actually is like, he's out of the spell. He's back to normal. But I'm like, there's been no sign of him actually improving the entire film. Like, he has been manically laughing and telling them that they're going to be murdered and raped right up until the scene before this. So there's no even suspension of disbelief that he might actually be okay now.
This was really strange because, yeah, I didn't know what to think. Like, does he come, turn around and say, like, oh, hey, like, this is wrong. I gotta save everyone, even though everyone's practically dead now. But at least you can escape. Or was he just doing it to get free, and then he knew that, well, we're gonna catch her anyway, so yeah, I mean, no worries.
The latter there's what happens, and I think that's what it was. But it just it played so weird that first of all, did he even need to like? If they were going to run after her anyway, like him, like they were going to let him out of the restraints when they came in, like 2 seconds later. But instead, he goes out front and he just sort of kneels and like kisses the leader's hand, who's got the Anubis mask. Like he's the leader of the whole thing. And then, like we see the girlfriend running with the baby, and it doesn't even last that long. She's just running for a bit. She sees a car and then someone's behind her, and it just cuts to the title really abruptly. And it honestly feels like they didn't get enough footage that they wanted for the ending, and they had to just kind of do it in the edit and kind of make it feel like an ending, and it really didn't. It just felt like it ended really abruptly.
Yeah.
Because I honestly felt like they didn't sell it enough that she was safe. Like I never really felt that she had actually gotten away, so it didn't feel like an ending. I really thought that when I seen the car that, oh, they're going to take her back and we're going to have scenes with like her being like killed with Justin there, and this will be Justin showing that he truly is like part of the cult because he's going to kill the mother of his child. And it just cut to the title. It just ended like that's it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think it definitely needed something a little extra. Either like she gets in the car and then maybe notices something in the car that freaks her out, or like looks in the rear view and maybe sees him in the distance, or at least something like that. It's just
I think she had to get away further. I think she had to get in the car and drive and get to like a town and think she was genuinely away, like think, oh no, I'm out of the woods, literally I'm out of the woods, and then have someone show up at like if she's at a motel or
Okay, yeah.
or have like a big sequence where she goes to a police station and she thinks she's safe because she's in the police station, but then the jackals attack the police station and she still gets like taken. Like that'd have
Yeah.
a big ending. Like I'm just like spitballing ideas that, but it was nothing. She just like she gets captured after like 5 seconds. It's just and then it just cuts to the title as if that's meant to be an ending, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's it. We're done.
Yeah.
Go home, you bastards. Joke's on you for sitting through this movie.
Yeah, it's strange. I can't really defend that. Yeah, I'm trying to think there.
It was a
Like,
lot of the family bickering and like hinting that they've got a past, but it's not that nice because the dad was cheating on the mom and they split up and she started drinking, and the son's kind of resentful towards them for that. But honestly, none of it was remotely interesting. It was all very kind of like surface level stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I know sometimes you don't like needless explanations or whatever, but I would kind of like to have known more about this cult. Like, why jackals?
I mean, that could have been interesting. I don't think I needed that. I just needed them to do things because I felt like they just stood outside. They're like, no, do stuff, and because at one point I thought they hint. At one point, Jimmy hints that, or I think Justin hints that, oh, he needs to prove to himself that he's still worthy of being the cult. So I thought that was setting up that he's going to have to kill the family himself at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that'd have been an ending. It'd have been a really dark ending, but it would have like felt like the story, had a kind of arc to it. Instead, they just wait outside and then they eventually kill everyone, and that's it. Like I felt like it didn't do anything. It was exactly the most simplest thing that could have happened.
Yeah. It definitely has the scary mask problem where it's like, all right, we're just gonna put these people in scary masks and they're just gonna like stand outside and look creepy.
Which can work if they have a presence. Like in the strangers, they have a presence. Something like Michael Myers has a presence and he does things and he feels like a force of nature. And I think part of the problem actually there was too many of them. Like it was like an army, and it was just kind of like okay.
The thing is, there were so many of them, but I think you even said it like a little earlier. Like there was so many that they could easily just storm the house. Like it would have been no problem. But instead, I don't know. Maybe part of it is that they want to play games with their victims or whatever. But they really don't do anything that kind of. It seems like arbitrarily they'll just be like, okay, I guess you go attack them now.
Yeah, there's a couple of random scenes where someone like tries to get in a door, sneaks in the window upstairs, and it just feels like these random little elements don't build to anything. Like it'd be one thing if they kept escalating, and like the next time it was something worse, and the next time it was something worse, and they just stand outside and wait. I don't know. There was no momentum. It didn't feel like the plot was building to anything. It just kind of felt like it was stagnant, and as a result, the whole movie felt stagnant, and I was just kind of bored, waiting for things to happen. And that's kind of what the characters were doing. They were just waiting for things to happen.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's real short scene, but I did like the
Tim's searching for positives.
The part where he starts, I guess you would say howling, or whatever, like a jackal, and then you start hearing all the other jackals responding. I was like, oh, okay, that's like a cool little creepy thing. But
it's an interesting idea. I said I like the opening scene, so I should probably talk a little bit more about that.
oh sure,
The opening scene is a POV shot of someone returning. It becomes quite clear it's their old house. It's like where the family lives. It's like, this is a brother, son who's going back to his house, and he gets a key from under the mat. He pets a cat on the way in, so you're thinking, oh, maybe it's not so bad, even though it feels very foreboding and intimidating. And he gets in the house, and he's like he goes upstairs. It's all one big shot. Maybe there's some tricks to like sneak in some cuts, but it feels like one shot. And he goes up to the parents' room, and he takes some money out of an envelope, and you think it actually gives the impression that he maybe isn't there to actually kill them. He only does it because they wake up, because a dog starts barking and it wakes up his mother, so he kills her and then he stabs his father, and then he goes into the sister's room and she wakes up and he's like, oh hey, whatever your name is, like, oh we've been worried about you, where have you been? And she sees the blood in his hands, so she gets concerned and checks on the parents, and then he kills her. It wasn't original by any means, like I say, very Halloween opening, very maniac, but it did have a tone, it had a mood, and I thought I was going to like the movie because it did feel like something was, it felt like there was a style to it, it felt like there was stuff going on. And then the rest of the movie just kind of felt like it was standing still, and that's kind of where it lost me. That the opening scene ends with like him looking in the mirror and you see him with the mask on. Why he only put on the mask after, or at least I think does he put it on before he kills his sister? I think he does. He puts it on after the parents, but I don't know why he put that on there. Maybe it's just because he's becoming the Jackal, like he's finally transformed now that he's killed his parents. But I thought that scene was relatively well done. Like I thought, okay, this isn't going to be the greatest thing ever, but I may have some fun in a sort of sleazy horror movie kind of way. And then it just became what it was, and what it was not that great.
Yeah, it's a shame. So I was interested in this. I thought it looked like it had potential, and
yeah, but that's the biggest thing. It had a lot of potential, and it just fluttered it all away.
Yeah.
I guess we're at ratings time. Yeah. So Tim,
okay,
what would you rate Jackals out of 10? I'm curious, actually. Has your opinion of the movie went up or down after talking to me? Or stayed the same? That would be the more obvious thing to ask.
Maybe a little down, but not by much, because I think originally I was gonna go with maybe like a 5.5. Because again, there were a few parts that I liked, and I wasn't like, once I was done, I wasn't angry and like, oh my god, I can't believe I just sat through that. I was like, oh, okay, it was just kind of whatever. Okay. Yeah, talking about it though maybe might affect me a little bit. I might go down to just a 5, but I mean, I still think like it's not the worst thing in the world, definitely, but it's definitely not great. That's for sure. Afterwards, I watched it with my girlfriend, and we kind of like went online just to look at some like stuff. We're kind of interested about the ending, and when we typed it up, we saw like a lot of reviews, and like a lot of people gave it really bad reviews, like 1 star kind of stuff, and I definitely don't think it's that bad. So yeah, just right down the middle for me.
3 out of 10 for me.
Ooh, I think that's pretty harsh, but
I don't think, and that's the sad part. Like I say, I liked the opening. I was like, I'm gonna like this, and then like, while they're kidnapping the son back and they put him back in the chair and all that, like that was fine. And then they started talking more. I'm like, oh, this acting's really bad. And it kept going on. I'm like, okay, but at least when the Jackals show up and it turns into the horror movie again, I should enjoy that. And then that quickly became disappointing as well. And then by the time I got to the last half hour, I was just waiting for it to end. Like I was just bored out of my mind. So, 3 out of 10 for me. Three, and why does it get 3 points? Because it did have some potential. It did have the opening scene, and yeah, there's worse. Sure, there's worse.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's a bit on par with The Boy.
Just you you shut your beard. I was gonna say that there's just enough midriff for you to get 3 points out of you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I was joking about the sexy killer, and she is a sexy killer, but I actually thought it was distracting when she showed up, and it was like, oh, we got a sex. Because I think I wasn't expecting it, because it was all the poster was all these jackals, and then not that it's a problem. You can have like the sexy, like the femme fatale kind of like not that it's a femme fatale in a horror movie list, but like you can have that type of character. That's fine. But I did feel like, oh, now we have the sexy jackal, because we have to have sex appeal, like,
Oh, of course.
so, yeah.
Now, I will say, so we watched this movie, and then afterwards, it was kind of latish at night, probably about 8 or so, and so it was pretty dark, and we took my girlfriend's dogs for a walk, and as we were walking them, we heard some like rustling on the other side of the street, and we looked over and we saw a coyote was running away from us. So it wasn't a jackal, but it was kind of close to a jackal. So I did have a little bit of like jackal.
Cool.
We also saw a raccoon on the roof of a school.
Did you watch Guardians of the Galaxy soon before? Maybe explain the connection with that one.
Oh, that would have been great. I would have been like, what is going on here?
I don't think I've ever seen a raccoon, like in the wild, like, just like randomly.
I actually have seen quite a bit of them. Yeah, they're very. I've always lived in. I mean, right now I'm living in Hollywood, but like growing up, I lived in a like suburb area that was pretty close to woods, and we saw a lot of critters, and raccoons are definitely not something we saw super often, but a couple of times. There's one time where we have like a big like glass door that leads into the kitchen, and I remember at night there was just one raccoon that was just sitting right in front of the kitchen door looking into us, and it was just, like foaming at the mouth, and it was just like can this like go away, please?
A little bit creepy.
Yeah.
So no, I guess that's Jackals, which we ended up talking about raccoons for some reason in the end. It's not good. It's a weak movie. It very well could be in contention for the bottom 10 of the year when we get to that list. Not at the top of the list, admittedly, but it very much could be on that bottom 10.
It's been quite a year. That's I feel like last year we maybe had like a little bit of trouble filling out all the spots. I feel like we had a little bit of a debate going on, but I feel like this year it's going to be pretty easy.
I don't know. Maybe the last couple, but I feel like there was like most of that worst 10 that we did in December was mostly pretty shit. Like it was mostly quite awful stuff that it's like these all deserve to be here, kind of thing. I can't actually remember what we put in that list. It'll be fun actually. Just before we do this year's, when we get to December, I might go back and look at what we did last year and go, oh yeah.
Watch them all over again.
No, just watch the video of us saying what they are. You idiot.
Hey.
Watching them again, kidding me? Actually, it's saying something I can't even remember what number 1 was last year. I've got a good feeling what number 1's going to be this year, unless something.
Last year it had to have been either, was it The Darkness or The Forest? Maybe one of those two.
I think it was The Darkness, or was that what it was called? Was it just The Darkness, or was it like?
Is it Into the Darkness?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that Kevin Bacon one. Yeah, I think that was number 1. Oh god, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, so that has been Jackals. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, over at patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. Of course, one of the things that you get on Patreon at the $5 tier is you get to vote on the monthly voting for a bonus episode of Screams After Midnight. And we review the movie that's picked. But because next month is October and we're having multiple votes for it, 2 of them are for patrons. One is the classics vote. The other one is the knee-high mischief vote. Those are for Patreon people only. However, there's a 3rd vote for next month, which is a public vote, and it is a werewolf vote. So if you go to the description below, you'll find a link to the vote, which is a werewolf vote. The options are Cursed, Wolfen, The Howling, and Werewolf of London. So it's a variety of werewolf movies. And you can vote.
If you follow Pete on Twitter, you can see him really campaigning for Cursed.
No, you will not. Thank you very much. but we're not swaying votes. Tim, you always do this. You get very suspicious. You always try and sway the votes one way or the other, and I'm not happy about it. This should be treated like a proper election, as it were.
You gotta play the game, baby.
No, you do not. I will not have you meddling with the results and trying to sway voters. There's no campaigning for this, Tim. This is. I mean, if they want to campaign themselves with each other, that's another thing entirely. But you are not allowed to. You have to be impartial. You have to be hands off.
Okay, I can do that.
Yes, very well. So do that in the description below. But that is us otherwise. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.